Hey, it's 12th Man Podcast again. We're back, we're buzzing, we're banging out episodes on a regular basis now. Uh, got another really, really good episode lined up, and I've got Football TJ with us. TJ, how you doing, my man?
Doing well, thank you, Miz. Good to be back.
Good stuff, man. I know you're busy with studies and whatnot. You're not as active as you used to be, but obviously studies come first. Hopefully you can, get back into the football Twitter mode and enjoy all the different stuff that happens on a day-to-day basis, and you can be buzzing again, man.
Yeah, for sure. Um, actually, I haven't been studying, but I've just been trying to chill out after a really busy term of school, and then
Right.
obviously I've had some summer plans going on holidays soon. But yeah, I've been in and out recently more than I have been in the past week.
Nice, nice.
It's good to be
Looks like I haven't done my homework, but
back.
thanks for letting us know. Um, Without further ado, today's topic, as we've discussed earlier, is going to be about Kante. In recent times, there's been a lot of talks in football Twitter. You would have noticed as well that he's been away from the team due to injury. He's destined to come back. He's in Japan at the moment. Not sure how much he's going to feature in tomorrow's game, but quite possibly he might feature in the game against Barcelona. And I thought, it's timely to talk about what Kante's role is going to be within the team, and what are some of these commentaries that's happening in football Twitter as well. So let's start off initially with you, football TJ. Let's talk about Kante's personality first. We can all, I suppose, agree that he's got a very bubbly nature. We see photos of him, videos of him all over football Twitter, all over social media actually, and he seems like a very, very kind-hearted person, and it brings a very nice vibe to the team. Um, What's your thoughts, I suppose, in regards to his personality, firstly, and what that sort of means to our club and our fan base, and to his teammates, I suppose?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'll be pretty quick with this one because there's not much to describe. As you said, he's you pretty much described his personality, but basically what I have to say is it translates into how he is as a professional. He's one of the best in terms of attitude, and that's what one of the big things I and many fans look for in players right now is attitude and how their personalities rub off on other players, and how it ends up being like sort of a role model for them. Kante is just a great player to have in our squad, like in terms of football wise, attitude wise, and in terms of helping develop other young players around them. So that's why that's one of the reasons I really love him, to be honest.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I could not disagree one bit in that particular statement. In recent times, I remember, I don't know if you remember, sometime I think last year there was a game, and then right after the game, there were a bunch of fans that were sort of, chanting his name, and then he ended up, I think, going to one of their homes to play FIFA with them. I
Yeah,
don't
I
know if you
remember
recall.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, and these are the things that really, really get me going, I suppose, as a player. Like, he's so humble. I mean, how many players do we know that would actually attempt to do something like that?
not many at all. Like he's definitely one of a kind. I didn't see that. I saw something like that out of other people before him, but it
Mm.
was it was a wholesome story to see.
No, absolutely, man. Cool. So I suppose we can all agree that he's got a very, very nice personality, a good-natured person, and that's a positive, I suppose, for the club, and for the fan base as well. Now let's swiftly move into the more crux of this podcast, I suppose, is let's talk about his strengths before we sort of move into the different formations Frank Lampard's tried recently and where he would fit in. But let's focus now about his strengths. What would you say are some of his pure strengths, whether it be defensively or attacking wise?
All right, so for his pure strengths, for me, first of all, he's obviously good in both the game. Contrary to
Mhm.
what you think, offensively, he's an athlete. He's a runner. He can run. He's got stamina. He'll run a whole game. As you saw in the Europa League final, he was 50% with an injury, and he still outplayed some of the Arsenal midfield. So obviously, that's great to have. Defensively, yeah, he puts in so many tackles. He puts in so much effort. He's literally where you need him to be at all times. But even offensively, I mean, as we saw, like when he played in a more advanced position last season under Mauricio Sarri, he he makes like those forward runs. He's a really good he's a good dribbler actually, but he's criminally underrated about that. And I
Mm.
mean, he's popped in with some more goals. He's got a decent shot. He can really do it all in my opinion. It's just he's quite underrated when it comes to all of his abilities. Most people see him as just the lone DM or the center defensive midfielder Kante, but he's a box to box in my opinion. He can do it all.
Yeah, look, I definitely agree with that. I feel, without a doubt, I definitely think he's a box to box. But there is a caveat to that. I feel he's much more lethal when he's a lot deeper. If you can recall our campaigns basically under Conte and then his campaign with Leicester, I feel like the counter attacking sort of scenario is very well suited for him, where he understands positionally where to be in the defensive line initially, and then when he makes those interceptions or he wins the ball back in his own half, whether it be through pressing and whatnot, um, then definitely he can sort of scream through his half and then move a swift counter attack up the field, and then lay the ball off to more attacking players. I feel that's more of his strength as opposed to, yes, he was definitely, he improved a lot by the end of last season. But I feel sometimes with the possession, he seems a bit confused as to, what to do with the ball. He's not entirely comfortable all the time with the ball. He's more, I'll win it back and then I'll initiate something, as opposed to, okay, I'm open, pass the ball to me, I'll find another person to pass to, so on and so forth. What do you think about that? Like, do you think that's sort of um, the correct sort of scenario, I
Yeah,
suppose?
no, I totally agree with pretty much with what you said there. Um, we can both first of all we can both come to agreement that like yeah he I definitely think he is better deeper. There was definitely signs, especially at the beginning of last season, where he was a little bit confused with playing a little higher up. Of
Mm,
course, he did improve a lot though, which is why I wasn't too worried. But we can both come to agreement that he's not a lone center defensive mid, correct?
mm. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
that's definitely not him. But like with someone, let's say Jorginho, whether it's Matic, whether it was Pogba at the World Cup, in a 4-2-3-1 in a double pivot, that's definitely like his strongest suit. And yeah, when he's partnered with someone deep, he's definitely a brick wall, definitely his best position. But at the same time, I don't think like I'm really strongly um I'm strongly sided with how he played in Sarri's system because it like it did work out in the end, and I hate it when people say him and Jorginho have to switch positions because that is not the case at all. I think he came to his role pretty well in the end, and like I said, he's super adaptable. He's got a great attitude. He can do it. He can do anything when he puts his mind to it. But yeah, as a double pivot, it's definitely his best position. He's better deep, and again, why I don't want him playing as a lone DM or switching with Jorginho is you said it perfectly. He's the I'll win the ball back and then I'll give it to you. You guys do something with it, kind of thing.
Mm.
He's not like, and you said Jorginho is the one to ask for the ball. Pretty much everything goes through him. You don't want that going through Kante at all.
Correct, correct. I mean, I think in not just in recent times, all over last season as well, people seem to misunderstand this concept of Jorginho's role, and they think Kante is better suited there. As you've said, he's not a lone DM, and we all know he's not a lone DM. He would struggle massively if he's the only person just in front of the two centre backs. He's always been the person who's had another partner because he does bomb forward. As we've agreed, he's a box to box. He does bomb forward. And when you do bomb forward, if you're the lone DM, you leave the gap there. If you lose the ball going forward, then there's the gap in the middle, and you've got to sprint back again. In a double pivot, he loves the sort of lateral movement of running sideways and having that partner cover the other side, I suppose. And then if he does bomb forward, he's always got a partner that's backing him up if he does, end up losing the ball up front. So, yeah, that's such a massive misunderstanding for me. They tend to not understand what Jorginho actually does, and Kante wouldn't be doing the same thing. Jorginho is not a defensive midfielder. He's the link-up player, helping to build the play. Asking Kante to do that would be an absolute nightmare for him, I feel like. Let's now swiftly move into the formations, I suppose, because we were kind of talking about the formations, but let's truly touch on these formations now. We've seen Frank Lampard try initially I think the first game against Bohemians, his first half was a 4-2-3-1.
Yeah.
Then I think in the second half he tried a 4-3-3. Against St. Patrick's, he started off with a diamond. Can't really recall what he did in the second half, but let's go through some of these now. Let's start with the 4-4-2 diamond. Football teacher, where do you think Kante sort of fits into that?
So just to quickly start off, I didn't watch any of these games so far. I didn't have to. I mean, the St. Patrick's game was at I think 2:30 in the morning my time, so a little bit absurd for a preseason's game. But I watched extended highlights. I kind of understood where the game was going and stuff like that. I was really intrigued to see the diamond formation actually, because it's been a really long time since anybody's seen that at Chelsea, or in a while. But I quite like it, and I don't know if anybody notices this, but I think it's a really flexible formation. You can go from a diamond formation to a 4-2-3-1 to a 4-3-3 really quickly, no hesitation at all. Now, regarding Kante's position, I mean, if we're gonna do a diamond formation, you still got the base three midfield in a 4-3-3. So I would obviously still play him in that same right center mid slot, right there. Mm-hmm. Jorginho sitting at the base, conducting the game as he normally does. When fully fit, obviously Ruben Loftus-Cheek attacking from the left side of midfield, and then for me, that attacking midfielder at the top of the diamond would be Pulisic. Actually, as we've seen for US men's team, he's done really well playing centrally. He can create lots of space. He can create lots of good chances from pretty much anywhere. So I'd love to see him have a go centrally. And like I said, a diamond formation can easily be switched to a 4-3-3. Pulisic can go wide to the right, and one of the strikers could obviously be Hudson-Odoi or another winger, dropping to the left. That's just my take on the 4-2-3-1 or the diamond formation.
Yeah, I think initially, probably when I first saw the diamond formation against St. Patrick's, I couldn't actually think of how Kante fits into that. But as you've clearly have said, and since then, obviously, there's been so many tweets. One of them's been from Vince. I think his handle is blue_footy. Yeah. And he sort of lined up the formation, and he had, just as you said, Kante as similarly as the 4-3-3, the right-sided midfielder in that diamond. And it sort of made sense to me then that, that's not going to be much of a change for him since last season. It'll be perfect for him to carry that out again and build on that, I suppose. And as you've said, you can easily switch that to a 4-2-3-1. And I
Mhm.
think having him in the team would would mean going forward in an attacking formation would be the diamond, and then falling back into the defensive position, he could just slot in the double pivot with Jorginho. Um,
Exactly.
yeah, so I can definitely see how he fits into the diamond. Next one is the 4-3-3. I think that's the classic one, which obviously we've all seen last season. Um, what's your thoughts on, I suppose, that? Would you want Frank Lampard to use that? I can't see how he's comfortable. I feel like Frank is not too worried about possession per se. He's more worried about what do we do with the possession. Um, I feel like he hasn't really enjoyed the 4-3-3 so much as yet. What's your thoughts?
Yeah. Lampard, as we know, he's like, I'd say the number one thing for him has been, like, especially defensively, is the press and how we maintain it throughout the 90 minutes,
Mm.
which is good because I mean, under Maurizio, sorry, we tried to press and it didn't always work out, which did impact our game a lot. Um, 4-3-3 wise, I mean, we already know how that sets up. I would assume if he ever went with that, he would probably keep Jorginho and Kante where they are. I don't think he'd tweak much.
Mm.
I could see him maybe trying out Kante at the lone DM, and I wouldn't mind that as long as it doesn't become a regular thing.
Mm.
But honestly, like, I don't think if he did go 4-3-3, I don't think there would be that much of a difference as to how Maurizio Sarri lined up. Maybe defensively, like you said, he might drop deeper next to Jorginho, which we saw a bit of at the end of last season. Um, and just quickly, after I finish 4-3-3, I just wanted to mention quickly about the diamond. Quickly,
Mm.
I
Yeah.
I put in some research into that formation after the game, and another reason why it would really suit Conte actually is because that midfield four, that diamond four midfield, they need to be extremely energetic and extremely they need to work really hard throughout the game because they don't have any wingers. There's no width in this team. The width is mostly supplied just from the fullbacks. So not only the fullbacks have to be really dynamic, such as like having Reece James and Emerson, but that midfield four needs to do a lot of work, whether it's like covering spaces on the wide sides or running up and down the field. That's why I think Conte would be really good in that as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The diamond, it makes me think, as you said, no out and out wingers. It just screams out to me that's what Lampard wants. I've seen the last two games. Obviously, there's a game tomorrow, and he loves to attack straight through the middle. He wants penetrating passes through the middle, and I think Mason Mount did a fantastic job against. I know it's a weaker opposition, but he ran a lot and he dropped back and he tried to find that penetrating pass through the middle constantly. Same with Kovacic as well.
Yep.
I think that's definitely one of the ideas. But moving back to 4-3-3 again, I feel like that's a formation. It's a bit incomplete without Ruben Loftus-Cheek. Like until Ruben Loftus-Cheek comes back, I feel like we can't really perform the 4-3-3 properly. I know a lot of people can say, "Oh, you can plug in Kovacic in Ruben Loftus-Cheek's position," but Kovacic, we've all seen, hasn't been providing us the kind of goals that Ruben Loftus-Cheek can provide us.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean, would you actually want the 4-3-3 to continue, or there's a lot of people in football Twitter that wants the 4-3-3 to continue. What's your, I suppose, stance on that?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you about Ruben Loftus-Cheek there. He's definitely for me, one of the main components of the 4-3-3 working. He's like you put him in, he walks into our team into the left center mid position and he plays that so well. But despite even though he's injured for a while, I would probably still stick with it. I'm From what I've seen so far in preseason and from what I've heard, the 4-2-3-1 hasn't really taken off fully yet. Like it hasn't worked out as much as people would have thought, despite us having players that are suited to it. I think personally the 4-3-3, we actually have players suited to that as well, considering that's what we played for the entire year last year. Um, Kovacic, yeah, he doesn't score enough. He doesn't assist enough. He can do a job in left center mid, but it's not. I wouldn't start him there every game. I mean, for me, I have like on my lineup that I created at least. If it's left center mid, I have like Loftus Cheek. I've got Mount. I got Barkley looking into there, even though I don't rate Barkley that much. You want like more of like an attacking threat there. But I do think even without Loftus Cheek, we could still make a 4-3-3 work. And just because so many players of our players are used to it, that's why I would think it still works. But I think we will still play with the 4-2-3-1 a little bit more, and it'll come to effect sooner rather than later.
Hey, you're right, man. Yeah, I suppose it's good to have all these options open, and you know, everything will sort of change once we have all our injured players back as well. Um, let's now move into the 4-2-3-1. I know we've touched on it already, but let's dig really deep into it. 4-2-3-1 for me seems like that's Lampard's bread and butter. I haven't watched too much of Derby last season, but a lot of people tell me that 4-2-3-1 was his favorite formation. And it feels like he's very comfortable with that formation, and it gives me a couple of indications. Is one, he wants the defense to be absolutely watertight with the 4-2-3-1, and in possession he wants to be very dynamic and very direct and very quick, and literally create chaos every time they have the ball, as opposed to, I suppose, last season when it was a lot more patience build up, being very, very, moving the ball around as quickly as possible, being very patient because teams are sitting deep. And I guess, 4-2-3-1, I think it will be interesting against teams that will sit deep against us. And that's where I feel 4-4-2 comes into play as well, the diamond. Kante obviously will go into the double pivot in the 4-2-3-1. What's your take on all of that scenario?
So yeah, like I already mentioned, the 4-2-3-1 is it's a flexible formation. You can switch between the other two we've been talking about, but it's a really popular formation, and for obvious reasons. I think it's like one of the most balanced formations in the football world right now. You can, if on defense you have you got two like sitting midfielders protecting the back four, so you got a good wall of defense already in the case of a counterattack. But at the same time, on offense, you have the front four that are really like that midfield three, like the wingers and the attacking mid, can always interchange. So that causes a lot of problems for opposition teams. But also, you can have a possible fifth or sixth attacker with any of the CDMs coming up, and as well you got your fullbacks coming up to support the wide players as well. So on offense, it can be really lethal as well, which is why it's such a common formation. And on the topic of Kante today, I mean, that's probably the formation best suited to him. And if you want to play to his strength, it's definitely it's good to play with him there. Jorginho can obviously go in on the other side, and they complement each other really well, those two players. I really like watching them play together. I think it'll like I said a bit earlier, it'll come into effect sooner rather than later.
I think one of my I suppose question mark would be is, I know we've seen Kante work alongside Jorginho well, but I suppose in a 4-2-3-1, with Jorginho being the other supporter in the middle two with Kante, I guess what will be our philosophy then? Is it still build up from the back? And if it is build up, it'll most likely go through Jorginho again. And then where does that keep Kante? Do they keep switching from 4-2-3-1 to 4-3-3 or 4-4-2 whenever they have the ball, and then as soon as they don't have the ball, they then revert back to a 4-2-3-1. I suppose it's going to be very, very interesting to see, because it really does sort of throw throw us off, I suppose, when you have Jorginho. We all know he's not a counter-attacking player. He's all about the possession. So, thoughts on that, man?
Well, I mean, yeah, Lampard. I know for a fact that Lampard last season at Derby, from what people have told me, he does as well. He also likes to play out of the back. He's not the kind that's just gonna play hoofball and stuff like that. But so no, that's why I still see Jorginho in his plans, really, and as well as being a really big Jorginho supporter. But no, I think in a 4-2-3-1, he can be able to do what he normally does. I don't see it being much different than a 4-3-3, apart from maybe that left-sided midfielder being higher up the pitch. That's the only difference, really. But no, the play can still go through him. Kante will be there supporting him on the side. He can obviously push up a little bit, because Jorginho, even when he's playing in a double pivot, he, just like playing as the base regista in the 4-3-3, he's not going to go up that much. So Kante can go up as he wishes on attack. We'll be playing out from the back, as I said, and honestly, no, I don't really see much of a difference. I still think Lampard will try to play with a possession-based style, but like you said a bit earlier, more direct kind of possession, more purpose with our possession rather than just having like a patient build-up.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. I think, I guess at the end of the day, it's a good problem to have. It's not really even a problem. It's a good thing to have. And it'll be very, very interesting to see tomorrow's game. I'm not sure if Kante is going to be on tomorrow, but to see what formations are played out, and then obviously, hopefully, we see Kante against Barcelona a few days' time after tomorrow's game, and it'll be very interesting to see the chemistry within the team with Kante, and hopefully, if Jorginho is playing as well, and if Kovacic is playing as well, how it all sort of gels together in Lampard's view. Now, let's now move into more sort of topical stuff in football Twitter. I'm not sure if you've noticed, in recent times, I've noticed a few football Twitter accounts have been having a dig at Kante. I wouldn't say hating on him, but kind of not really rating him as much. Constantly keep saying that, he keeps running. That's all Kante does. He just runs. He'll go from sideways, up and down. He doesn't really add any other value in terms of assists or goals and whatnot. And I find it very, very disturbing, some of these comments, that this player has been a player of the year, I think, in Premier League once.
Yeah.
Has won the Premier League with Leicester and with Chelsea, and he's won the FA Cup, and he's won now the Europa Cup, and let's not forget, he's won the World Cup. How do you feel when you see these? Well, have you first seen any of these comments as well in football Twitter?
I don't think maybe I haven't seen them as much as you have, maybe, but I know where you're coming from. I do know a lot of people have started to question Kante and his future at the club. I've seen a lot of people asking, should we sell him to PSG for like over 120 million or something? And I'm always thinking to myself, no, why should we? But I know where you're coming from. And it's a tough one, because he is our most important player, I'd say. He's definitely, I wouldn't say he's our most skilled player. We're not going to call it that. He's not our talisman kind of figure. He's our most important player. And I'm quoting this from a video I saw from Twitter a few days ago. I think it was like Alexis Kavka's view or something like that.
Right,
But,
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw that, but basically he summed up Kante perfectly, as he's not our talisman, and no one should ever think of him like that. But he's when he's on the field, he's definitely one of our most important players. But it doesn't mean he's our best player, which is how it should be looked at, and I think that's what it translates to how people are looking at it. Some people obviously having unnecessary digs at him, and that's totally unnecessary. But when people say like, oh, when a lot of people are starting to maybe include him in their potential lineups for the season less often, I do understand that, because I like, in my personal opinion, he might not, like, for me, I don't think there should be games where he doesn't start, like maybe just a few. He's definitely one of our most important players, but in terms of some games where we really need to get a win, we can there's so many formations and so many midfielders we can choose from, that some midfielders might be the answer we need and not him. But just going back on what I said earlier, he's one of our most important players without a doubt, and it should not be overlooked.
Yeah, well put, man. I need to probably go and see that video from Alexis Kafkas. Um, yeah, you're right. I think absolutely well said. He's probably not our talisman and not really our most skilled player, but in the field, he's one of our he is one of our very important players, because of all the hard work that he does as well. Predominantly, I would say in the defensive side of things, which is a very important facet of the game, obviously. Um, and yeah, I think I kind of agree with you as well that in certain games where we see our opposition probably, you know, substantially weaker than us, and we definitely need to go out there and get the win ASAP. Um, those are the games where, as you said, we've got such plethora of midfield quality at the moment. He could perhaps sit back on those ones, and we can go for a more attacking option in those matches. And he can obviously be in the bench in those matches and still come on, but you know, but yeah, against the bigger teams, he does a lot of good work, and especially against teams that are going to press us really, really hard. He's very, very good at winning the ball back, and then igniting a swift counter, or even winning the ball back, intercepting it, and then igniting a really, really quick counter or even a quick attack. So yeah, that's really, really interesting, TJ. By the way, when did that video come up from Alexis? I'm really intrigued now. I really want to
Um,
see that now.
it's not like a super long video. It was literally like 20 seconds, just him summing up Kante. But I saw it a couple days ago on my timeline. I think I'll send it to you later on for sure.
Cool, cool. We might have to make a small little mention for him in this podcast as well, I suppose. So yeah, look, that pretty much brings us to the end of today's episode for Kante. Any last words about Kante, TJ?
Honestly, no. I mean, we've covered just about as much about Kante as people need to know. There's obviously a lot to know, and yeah, I think we've dug into the topic really well, and gained some more insight on it.
Nice, man. Well, before we finish up, I'll ask you one last question about Kante. If PSG was to come in this transfer window, let's just say, hypothetically, and put in 120 million bid, does TJ, if he was taken over Marina's spot, in our special Marina spot, what does TJ do? Does he sell Kante?
Big nope from me. At least this summer. In a summer
Nice.
where we have a transfer ban and we already lost Hazard, and we have one of the best midfields in the league, I am not wanting to leave to lose Kante. Now, in 1 or 2 seasons, if we happen to strengthen our midfield, maybe reinforce it to where we have better suited players for different formation or whatever, and he's still at that valuation potentially. But for now, there's no way I'd want to risk losing him.
Nice, man. Nice. I definitely wouldn't want to lose him at this point. I think because of him, our midfield looks that much better. I don't know if you've seen my recent tweet a week ago. I feel after Man City and Liverpool, I reckon we've got the number three. I even think it's better than Tottenham's midfield. I feel like we've got the number three best midfield quality in the Premier League at the moment.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, I've said that as well. I've publicly stated that on Twitter a couple times as well. And now I'd say we also have one of the best midfield. I'd say we'd have one of the best midfield depths in the Premier League as well. I mean, we've got so much reinforcement in that midfield now. It's really positive, especially for a team with a transfer ban.
Yeah, yeah. Too right, man. Cool. Well, TJ, thank you so much, man, making the time and coming here and joining us in another podcast. I do realize it's very early in the morning over there. So yeah, have a good sleep, and we shall have this up and running very soon. Hopefully within the next 24 hours, and hopefully all our viewers can tune in and listen to this episode. Any final message to your followers? You've hit 1,000 followers recent time.
Yes.
Congratulations, my man.
Thank you very much. And yeah, thank you for having me on here as usual. Always a pleasure coming on. Hope to be back on really soon. I always really love coming on here. And to anybody watching, spread the word. Let's get more people subscribing to the 12th Man's channel. I mean, any growth helps us, and it's a pleasure, to be honest.
Nice. Brilliant. Love that. Love that promotional ending right at the end. Perfect, TJ. All right, man. You take care, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you very much.